China sucks. Over the winter, the pollution was so bad, Chinese scientists referred to the smog as the equivalent of a nuclear winter. I couldn't see outside for more than 3 meters. I thought it was fog. I was wrong. So wrong. Temperatures reached the tune of 2 to 3 degrees, and the neutral shower water is, as always, at an unregulated outside temperature of f***ing freezing. So yeah, winter was fun, I guess, if you like cyanide poisoning. I didn't address this in my last video, so I'll do so now. I'm now living behind the Great Firewall of China, and wanted to get a nice, reliable VPN before resuming my equestrian work in the field of analytic, intense watching of children's television programs. Also, I went to Hong Kong and ate myself silly. Was great. 10 out of 10 would eat Hong Kong again. But enough about my happy circumstances, let's get on with a needlessly complicated look at music in MLP. When I was a kid, I'd always like a certain type of song. They'd always have the same 4 chords in them, and to be honest, all of them sounded pretty much the same. Some sciencey things have been produced in the past century or so, and the full list of stuffs from Christine Schubar's Einer Deutsch German thing will be in the description below for reference. The idea of it is that each key has a specific feeling or emotion that it conveys most readily. For example, the C minor key may convey feelings of a declaration of love. But let's arbitrarily pick some songs from MLP to analyze this way. It's not like I'm scripting this or anything at all, obviously. But first, Schubar's text applies to the stylization of traditional music and has little effect on modern pop. But the idea is still the same, even though the style is different. For the purposes of this analysis, I'll be taking a look at a more modern text as reference. It's called The Meaning of Key, but I doubt anyone's interested. Anyway, Winter Wrap-Up is super catchy and is written in C# major. C#, my reference book says, is similar to C in its straightforwardness. However, it aims to be more melodically beautiful than C, foregoing flexibility for beauty, whatever that means. A translation in common English would be something like, C is boring, so let's just add a hashtag to it to make it more interesting. Hashtag C. Sciencey physics nonsense supports that certain notes in a certain order will make us feel differently. Sound waves are just as ephemeral as speech, and as such, because of the way we build language off tones and sound, we hear the steps from C, E, and G in Winter Wrap-Up like we hear words and not single letters. Because of that phenomena, the f***ups, accidentals, work in tandem with the song, and many others. In the late 1950s and early 60s, there was this boring old guy named Stravinsky, he wrote the Firebird, that spoke at length, at very, very great length, about the philosophy behind constructing a melodic and harmonic focus in his work. His system of harmony is divided into, coincidentally, 6 issues. These 6 headings are the concept of harmony, tonality, modality, polarity, serialism, and historical context. We can ignore the last 3 because they're super boring to talk about, and they don't really have an impact on what I want to explore, so let's just throw that out the window. His concept of harmony, like our 2 sisters, is contrasting forces working together to create a child. Harmony. Despite what objections you may have about Philly Vanilli, I don't think anyone can deny that the music was pretty damn good. Find the Music, like many a cappella sung voices and groups, has a good example of counterpoint working together to make a coherent whole. What's counterpoint? Counterpoint is the concept of 2 contrasting melody lines that are harmonically interdependent with each other, but are independent in rhythm. It's actually pretty hard to explain without using technical jargon, but just take it as 2 things that aren't playing the same thing, but sound good together, like Flutterbutter and the rest of the gang. In Find the Music, I feel like the harmony line is built after the melody, creating gaps, and I mean gaps in the notes that they sing, not time gaps, that sound nice harmonically, which is to say, I think they made the harmony line after creating the melody. But you don't have to know all this technical stuff to enjoy music, obviously. As a brief respite from all of these long and complicated words, let's look at Winter Wrap-Up. Winter Wrap-Up can be interpreted to be exceedingly simple and straightforward if you choose to listen to it that way. The song can convey the same meaning when stripped to its basic melody, and the structure of its harmony is a mix of classical and modern music, which fits well in the show. Tonality and modality is something easily explored with prior knowledge of tonics and modes, which, everyone obviously knows. But just take my word for it that in a song, the melody is based off a scale, and in this scale, there's a thing called the tonic note. It's seen as sort of the anchor of a scale. Not TV anchor, whatever. For example, the tonic of a C major scale would be C, and the C sharp minor would be C sharp. The tonic has all sorts of complicated properties related to theory, and while some of these are important, most of them are not. Modality follows a similar line, but the final note is this. Songs revolve around their anchor note, like the 5 do around Twilight. It adds to the making of a more coherent piece, and it makes that piece more catchy, easy to remember, and enjoyable. The concepts of tonality and polarity, which I've skipped, is what Stravinsky's harmonic concept argues to be the core of what makes good harmony what it is. Basically, he says, songs are good because these notes sound good together, and because I like it, you should too. Another important aspect of the song is the hook. The physics behind whether a song is catchy or not usually relates to the contemporary tone or structure in the hook, and how well the tone structure fits in with what the listener finds familiar. Fifths, fourths, and thirds are usually a great way to create a catchy piece, since physics of vocal harmony works with the composition. Now that really sounded like sciencey physics crap, right? This really means that there are keys that sound like tones of voice, and whatever tones of voice we think is appropriate in a situation relates to the key that we find most enjoyable for a song in that situation. Modern tonal language is based on speech, and since the perfect fifth progression is a common speech progression of notes, catchy songs follow receptory patterns that lead to compositional ones at the structural level. Looking back though, a huge majority of MLP songs follow the ideas behind key aesthetics to reinforce the feelings and atmosphere that the show tries to enrich the viewer with as we view each episode. What do you think about the music of MLP? Are there songs that you feel don't follow this key pattern? Please let me know in the comments.